Have you ever imagined, what does it feel like if the man who makes you cry from a broken heart tonight is not the man next to you, but a man you have never even met? A man who wrote your pain, even before he felt his own pain? This is the darkest secret of the music industry that they never wanted you to know. Before the world screamed his name, before millions of women screamed hysterically saying his name, Bruno Mars was a ghost. A ghostwriter of heartbreak ballads living inside the most heart-wrenching diva songs you have ever heard. And today, I will prove that without his tears, there would be no hundreds of millions of tears shed around the world. Welcome back to this channel. If you think you know Bruno Mars only as the man with the James Brown dance moves and the golden voice who sings Uptown Funk, then you only know 10% of him. In this two-part video, I will unearth an archive that has been buried for 15 years. You will discover who Bruno Mars really was when he was still hungry, broke, and rejected in Los Angeles. You will hear the shocking fact of how he, a 23-year-old man, actually wrote the most honest heartbreak songs for women, and how Flo Rida's party hit Right Round, which sounds so festive, actually became his first ticket out of poverty. And at the end of part 2 later, I will reveal the most personal story that has never been fully told in the media, about the night he wrote When I Was Your Man with real tears, not for the fans, but because he was truly afraid of losing his true love, Jessica Caban, on an old piano in his tiny apartment. So make sure you watch until the very last second, because this is not just a success story, this is a story about a man who had to lose himself to find his own voice. Los Angeles in 2008 was not the city of dreams like in the movies. For Peter Gene Hernandez, Bruno Mars's real name, Los Angeles was a cruel city. He had just been fired from Motown Records. Imagine, the legendary label that raised Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, considered this young kid from Hawaii to have no future. No one wanted to listen to his songs. He had no money. He was couch surfing at his friends' places. His hair was long and unkempt, and he only had one thing left, which was an old piano and a notebook full of scribbled lyrics that no one had ever heard. While his friends his age were partying in Hollywood, Bruno spent his nights inside a small, stuffy studio with two other friends who shared the same fate, Philip Lawrence and Ari Levine. They called themselves the Smeezingtons, a funny name for a team that would later dominate the entire world charts. No one knew who they were. They were shadows. They were shadow writers hired to give life to other people's songs. And this is where the first miracle happened. The music industry at that time was thirsty for a party song that could explode in the clubs. A rapper named Flo Rida came with a sample of the classic Dead or Alive song. He needed a hook, a melody that could make everyone sing. Many big songwriters had tried and failed. Then came this skinny kid from Hawaii. Bruno didn't write about parties. He didn't understand the fancy club life. He wrote about what he felt, about regret. But with his genius, he turned that pain into an addictive melody that sounded so happy on the surface. He and his team wrote the chorus that we all know now, "You spin my head right round, right round." That song, Right Round, was released in early 2009 and exploded like an atomic bomb. The song broke the digital download record in America at the time, sitting at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for weeks. Flo Rida became a giant star overnight. But can you guess who was behind him? No one mentioned the name Bruno Mars. His name was only printed small in the songwriting credits, a name no one cared about. The media said, "This is Flo Rida's victory." But for people inside the industry, they started whispering, "Who is this kid? Who is this magical hook writer who can turn an ordinary song into a #1 diamond?" That whisper opened a door that had been tightly closed. Suddenly the phone in that small Smeezington studio never stopped ringing. And most shockingly, the calls came from the divas. Yes, the divas, the women with the most powerful voices in the world who were looking for songs to tell their heartbreaks. big producers realized something that no other songwriter in Los Angeles had. Bruno Mars had a strange gift. He, a young man, could write a woman's feelings when her heart was shattered far more honestly than the woman herself. How is that possible? The answer lies in his childhood in Hawaii. Bruno was raised surrounded by strong women. His mother, Bernadette, was an amazing singer and hula dancer. He saw his mother sing about love and loss every night on stage. He learned that a woman's heartbreak is not something weak, but something epic, cinematic, and full of power. He didn't write whiny sad songs. He wrote sad songs that made women feel dignified in their sorrow. Thus was born the second most mysterious era of his life, the era where he became the sad songwriter for the divas. You may not realize it, but you have definitely cried listening to his songs without knowing that it was Bruno's writing. When Alexandra Burke, the X Factor UK winner, needed a song for her debut after such a deep heartbreak, Bruno gave her Not Wavin' Flag. He gave deeper songs. When Brandy, the R&B legend whose voice became the soundtrack of our heartbreak in the 2000s, released her album, there was Bruno's touch in there. When Caban and even groups like Sugababes were looking for hits, they came to the Smeezingtons. But the peak of it all was when two of the biggest names in the world came knocking on his door. The first was CeeLo Green. CeeLo wanted to make a song about a man's regret watching his ex-lover leave with another man who was richer, more handsome, more successful. Bruno, who at that time still felt the sting of being rejected by Motown, understood that feeling perfectly. He sat at the piano, and within a few hours, one of the most honest songs in modern music history was born, FKU. A song that sounds cheerful, but its lyrics are an open wound. The song became a Grammy nomination, became a global phenomenon, and once again, everyone praised CeeLo. But the soul of that song was the wounded soul of Bruno Mars. And then came the offer that changed everything. A young singer. Wait, I will tell it in more detail in the second part later, but I will give you a leak now. There was a very big pop diva who had just been betrayed and needed the most graceful revenge song. Bruno wrote a song for her, a song so personal, so cutting, that when the diva recorded it, she cried inside the studio. That song almost belonged to Bruno, but he sincerely gave it away, because at that time he still thought his job was to be a shadow, to be a heartbreak writer for others. He never imagined that one day he would need all the lessons about heartbreak that he wrote for those women to save his own love. Because right when his career as a shadow writer began to shine, his personal life was on the verge of collapse. His girlfriend, the beautiful model Jessica Caban, the woman he loved more than anything, was getting tired of waiting. Tired of a man who was always broke and never at home. And this is where, at this lowest point, our story in part 1 must pause for a moment. Because what happened next in that small apartment in 2010, in front of the same old piano that witnessed his birth as a songwriter, is the moment that would define Bruno Mars's entire solo career forever. The moment when the heartbreak songwriter for the divas finally had to write a heartbreak song for himself. So what do you guys think? Did you just find out that behind the party song Right Round that you listened to in 2009, there was a Bruno Mars who was starving and fighting for his life? Write in the comments column which diva song breaks your heart the most, and you just realized Bruno had a hand in it. Don't go anywhere, because in part 2, which will be much more emotional, I will exclusively expose how Bruno Mars risked everything by writing When I Was Your Man in one tearful night, and why that song was almost never released because it was too honest for the music industry. Click the notification bell, subscribe, and see you in part 2.